Good morning, everyone, and welcome inside the 360 Sports Show here on September 6th, 2020. I am Andy Pizzelli. Welcome to the show. We are streaming live to YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, through Periscope, and Twitch. And we also put the show out as a podcast later on this afternoon. So if you can't catch us live, catch us there. Make sure you like and subscribe wherever you like to get your podcast content. Just search for the 360 Sports Show. And if you can't find us somewhere, let us know, and we'll try and get on that platform. But we are everywhere. If you'd like to contact the show while we're broadcasting live here, the email is right there on the screen, the360sportshow@gmail.com. You can also hit us up through the chat, through any of the live platforms that we're streaming to right now, and those will come right to us, and we'll get to your questions on the show. I'm Andy Pizzelli. Let's bring in now my co-host, Christian Lauber. Christian, how you doing here on another beautiful Sunday morning?
All right. We're down to 116 days, so we're inching closer to that 100 mark. So that's good.
2 weeks, little over 2 weeks, and we're into the double digits. Excellent. So a lot of sports news to catch up on. It's been a busy week. Let's start with the NHL, and we'll just start. We'll run through it really quick. In the second round, all the series finished. Tampa Bay beat Boston 4-1 in that series. All three other series went 7 games. The Islanders beat the Phillies, the Flyers in 7. Vegas beats Vancouver in 7 games, and Dallas beats Colorado in 7 games. So Dallas, Vegas, and Islanders, Rays in the conference finals. We're gonna get into the Bruins and their future because they're the biggest. I'd say out of what happened in that second round, that's the biggest story. What the Bruins were this season and where they're going, all that sort of stuff. But out of the other series, Christian, really any surprises there other than that those series went 7? I'd say the Islanders probably are the biggest surprise, but everyone else is kind of like Dallas. They should kind of be there. It's not that crazy of an upset. Same with Vegas. I mean, they were the number 1 team, but Islanders, I'd say, are the biggest surprise.
Yeah. I mean, the Islanders snuck in, late, obviously, with the startup. But I do think the Islanders, they play big. They have some skill up front, and Barry Trotz is a Stanley Cup winner as a coach. So it is surprising because I thought the Flyers were one of the, if not the hottest team going before the startup, and then it looked like it when they came back. They were ready to go. But I think the Islanders are a tough team. They play big. They got some size, a lot of skill with Barzal and guys like that, and solid goalie and the coach. So the coach is experienced. He's been there. So I would say it's surprising, not too surprising. But overall, out of all the other series, I mean, they were all close. I think some of that is expected, other than the Bruins. Tampa's a wagon. So we'll see what happens to the next round between. Because I think the Islanders match up much better with Tampa Bay than the Bruins do. And I think they can withstand some of the pressure that Tampa will throw at them. So that'll be an interesting series.
Yeah. You mentioned Matt Barzal there. Who would you rather have, Christian? Zach Senyshyn or Matt Barzal?
Yeah, we can go through that draft. Oh, God, is it bad?
The two
Maho and all these guys.
Referencing the 2015 draft, that's where the Bruins, I think that was from trading Lucic, correct? They had the 3 first-round picks in there.
I believe it was.
So the Bruins had the 13th, 14th, and 15th pick of the draft. Jakub Zboril. I can't even.
Yeah.
Zboril. I can't
Zboril.
even. Zboril. I can't even say his name right. Jake DeBrusk. I'd say solid, like not terrible, not great, but solid. And then Zach Senyshyn, who we don't even know what. You don't know yet what he's going to be?
Right now it's a fail. Yeah, right now it's a fail.
Right now it's a fail because of the immediate next pick, which is Matt Barzal.
Yeah.
Don't you wish you had that guy?
Yikes.
Yeah, and then there's obviously there's plenty of players after that in that draft where it's like, oh man. They also, I think it was part of that draft too. They had the goaltender Jones too, and then they flipped him, I think, to get Zorbril. Uh, so maybe you wish you kind of had another goaltender down the pipe, huh? So
Maybe,
we'll
yeah.
uh we'll dive right into that with the Bruins. I mean, they win game 1 against Tampa Bay, and then they proceed to lose the next 4 straight. I'd say 2 of those games, honestly, they could have gone either way. I mean, like the game, uh, was it game 3 or game was it game 2 or game 3 that went overtime? I can't remember.
Game two, and game 5. Game 3 was an
Oh, yeah,
absolute
that's
meltdown.
right. Game 3 was the blowout. So yeah, so game 2. I mean that, and we said at the time the difference in the probably the difference in the series. You're the older team, and even though they should be rested, you're playing. You could go up 2-0, or you're gonna go. It's gonna be even, and then you're playing the immediately next night after playing overtime. And they fought back in that game and brought it to overtime, and it seemed like okay, here we go, be up 2-0. Maybe we drop game 3, but come back ready. Odds are in your favor, and they can't find a way to win game 2, and then the rest is history. I mean, they get annihilated in game 3. Game 4 is just another tough game, and game 5, they battle right to the end, and it was just, I think the difference, and we said this, we've both agreed, Tampa Bay is just the better team, and the Bruins have a lot of great players. It's just a bad matchup because of the lack of size defensively. And what that happened is you saw it was like Groundhog Day. I had never seen so many tipped puck goals in my life, but that was just their strategy. Everything was going to be thrown at the net. The Rays, Lightning knew that they couldn't move anybody, that the Bruins weren't going to be able to move them out from in front, and so they were just going to try and throw everything in front and muck it up. And on top of that, make it hard on a backup goaltender, which is what Yaroslav Halak is. I think he was solid. I think because of all the tipped goal, I don't think there was very few times I thought like, oh wow, he got undressed there and just doesn't look ready. I mean, the litany of tipped goals. Yes, you wanted to make a save on some of those, like something freakish, but when it's happening like 4 times a game, I mean, you can't ask that a guy to make that save more than once a game. Those types of saves are once a game saves. And when like 3 goals are happening that way, and like 80% of the shots are being tipped in front, what are you supposed to do as a goaltender? So I really think it was just I don't want to say it's a collapse, because what the Bruins were in the startup is not what they were in the spring. And I think if this had happened in the spring, it would be way more disappointing. But the shutdown, they lose their goaltender, and we can get into that and his future. You're in the bubble. Also, the context of everything else that's just happening in the world. It's not as big as a bummer as, say, it just puts into more perspective, like losing last year in the Cup final for me. That's more what I come back to. It's like, man, this was probably the last run with this group, and you see how hard it is and how lucky you have to get sometimes. And losing last year when they were, I believe, the superior team to the Blues now hurts more than losing this year.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Look, I think Halak is what he is. He's a backup goaltender. He's a solid backup. So is he to blame for the losses? No. I think in some spots there, I think you need a save. I think there's key moments in these games where you're asking your goalie who sees the puck coming at him, and he just flubs it off his goal, off his mitt. That just can't happen. And in this series, that happened a number of times where they needed a big save, and they give it up, and the Lightning are off and running. Obviously, uh, not his fault. It is what he is. He came in on a day notice, and he played pretty well. I'm not going to take that away from him. He played pretty well, but he couldn't make those key spot saves. And I know you posed this question, and I'll steal it from you. Would Rask have made a difference in that series? 100%. I think if Rask has his head screwed on straight, he makes a number of those saves that Halak doesn't. Like Halak was, he looked very odd with his catcher's mitt. I mean, he was playing it like a catcher's mitt. He sometimes he looked like he was trying to catch a curveball when it was supposed to be a fastball, and it would just go underneath his glove. Um, so I think Rask does make a difference in that series. Now, obviously, that's a totally different
there's a
story.
big if there.
Yeah, there's a totally different story with him, and the track record that comes with Tuukka Rask, but 110% he makes a difference because if he has his head screwed on straight, he's a pretty damn good goalie. But that's another big if. Does he have his head screwed on straight? And obviously, family emergency and the bubble and everything, he wasn't engaged from the start. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I think that's the big. I mean, it's you're assuming a lot there that he'll have his head screwed on straight, and I think you know I think if he wasn't going to be comfortable in the bubble, he probably could have told the team earlier on. That wouldn't have made much of a difference. Clearly, I think they probably wouldn't have gone any further than they did if they could have known and rallied around maybe Yarrow a little sooner, because obviously they were able to get out of the first round. Um, I just think that if he was there, clearly he didn't he did not want to be there. He did not want to be there, and he was not going to be. He's talking about even before a family emergency cropped up. He's talking about normally I'm golfing right now. I'm not really worried about results. Kind of already resigned to this idea that no matter what happens, this is just kind of like an anomaly year. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't count. That's kind of the vibe we were getting. So I just feel like you weren't going to get what you wanted out of that guy anyways. What this leads me to, though, is what about next year? I mean, all odds are that the 2020-2021 season are going to have to be played in a bubble. Now, maybe it's more of like a regional bubble. They set up kind of like what the NBA's discussed, where, okay, these, 6 teams play here, these 6 teams play here. Once you guys are done playing each other, half of you will then hit the road and go over here. The other half will then travel and then come up to here, blah, blah, blah. But you're going to basically be in a bubble type environment for a season. Is Tuca going to be able to handle that? Is he going to be able to get up for that and play for that? And I just feel like I like the guy. I think he's probably I've never met him personally, but obviously his teammates all seem to talk glowingly about him. They like him. I think he's a great person. I've just never felt from being a fan and being an analyst and watching that he's this great competitor. And I just think with the price tag that's on him, with what this team kind of is currently constructed as, I just think it's time to move on. I just think with everything else that's going on, I just don't. I wouldn't want to ride another year with the guy, and you're in a position like you were this year, and then he bails on you. Whether him leaving is justified or not. I mean, he left and then decided not to come back. He easily could have come back to the bubble, but I think the guy wanted out of the bubble to begin with, and a situation cropped up, which was his out, and he took it. So, I, I don't know. How do you feel, Christian? I think one. I don't even know if you. I mean, I'd say you explore trading the guy, but I mean, I'd be willing to just like leave him in the expansion draft and let the Kraken take him off your hands if need be, and just start rebuilding. You probably let Torrey Krug walk, and now you get a whole bunch of money to play with, and you retool this team to make another little 3-year run with the vet guys you have and like, and the young guys that are ascending.
Yeah, I mean, Krug's another point to get to as well. In terms of Tuca, I don't know. I think just by track record, I feel like the Bruins are going to bring this whole core back and try to win one more. I just don't see I don't see that that's a good move. I mean, how many times are we going to see? As long as Tampa's sitting there in the division and you're going to get them most every year unless they have a meltdown. Like you can't rely on Tampa losing, in order to get to a cup final. I just don't think the Bruins they don't have enough at this stage, and they're a lot older. They have nagging injuries between Bergeron's groin and Pasternak's always hurt, and I just think it's time to. I'm not sure I would bring Rask back. I don't think at this stage. I mean, see what you have in Vladar or someone, and bring Halak back, and you'll have a decent duo there, and kind of set yourself up for the future in some ways, and kind of clear some room on the books, and maybe sign Krug. And Krug, I think, is gone, but you could try to make a stab at it. And if he is gone, I'm not paying him $10 million a year. So see you later on that one.
Yeah, no way. I mean, but here's the thing with Torrey Krug. I mean, this year he made 5. Um, you know, I don't. He's very very good on the power play, right? He's an excellent offensive defenseman. Defensively, he's okay, but you saw in this series they picked on him. They picked on some of the other smaller Bruins defensemen, and just they knew that those guys weren't going to be able to move the big guys out from the slot, and that's how you wind up with all this mess in front, and you can expose a goaltender who's just not used to playing starter minutes and being in the game, being there all the time. I really would. I'd pay Torrey Krug $6 million to come back if we're getting rid of Rask and Chara's coming back on which he said he wants to. Chara says he wants to come back, and I'd imagine in that scenario he's not going to ask for. If he asks for anything more than a vet minimum contract, then I'd hope that the Bruins. I love the guy to death, but I'd hope the Bruins say thanks, but no thanks, Big Z, and then he just retires, right?
Yeah, there's no way he would ask for much. I can't imagine that he would, put them over a barrel and then leave over $500,000 or something like that. I think he obviously wants to be here. So.
He's gonna play here or retire, and he might as well just take the minimum because I think he just wants to be on the team again. That's how I feel about Chara.
Yeah, the problem is how do you have him take a step back? I don't think he's a top line pairing anymore. I think that's pretty clear. I think anyone that's saying that we should keep him just for, oh, he's good captain, good this, I agree. But also, I think it's time to kind of find out what you have on that top pairing with either Grzelcyk or McAvoy, Lausanne, McAvoy, something like that, some other pairing up there. In terms of Krug, though, I mean, look, he's between. I would guess Brent Burns makes $8 million a year, and Erik Karlsson is the highest in the league at 11.5. I guarantee you, he's in the range of Jacob Trouba or Ekman Larson, like that $8 million range. There's no way I'm going to be paying that.
So
I can't imagine they would.
How do you feel about this then? You get rid of Krug, you let him walk, and you sign Alex Pietrangelo.
Yeah, I would do that. Yeah.
You would do that. Now, if you let Rask go, and you let Krug walk, you've got then money to add an extra add a D, and I think if you just I think Charlie McAvoy is ready to step into that power play role that Krug fills. So you could kind of have him start to take over that spot. And if you let Rask go, and you can kind of start to poke around some of these other offensive players that are on the books and kind of shore up your scoring a little bit more. The only problem is that, do you think you could bring, if you say add a guy, if you added Pietrangelo, and let's just say, for sake of argument, let me pull up a free agent list here of forwards, if this thing will load. and say you took some money and you went after a guy like what the heck? Oh, hey, guess what? Nathan Horton's a free agent. um, no, but you went after a guy like say, and I'm just looking at what their cap hits were last year. Obviously, some of these guys are going to make more money, but Taylor Hall's a free agent. No way they touch him. But you go after a solid second or third line forward, right? Can you just bring back Halak and be fine, or would you rather take a chance on this free agent market, which is thin? I mean, at that point, like, is Corey Crawford better than Yarrow Halak?
Yes.
Is Jimmy Howard at 36 better than Yarrow Halak?
That's pretty comparable, I'd say.
Braden Holtby, 31. Are the Caps ready to just blow everything up?
Yeah, well, I think Holtby's kind of washed, I'll be honest. I don't think he's been great.
Yeah.
He had his years, but I don't know if he's exactly what he was.
What about Matt Murray from Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I take a stab at him. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, he's.
I think you could easily fill if you weren't looking to do like a Halak or Vladar, tandem there. You could easily find someone on the market in goal. And I mean, look, in the NHL, a goalie gets hot. A goalie gets hot. Doesn't matter if you're paid $1 million or $7 million. We've seen that before. It's like, between Rask and whoever. I mean, you've seen it. One guy gets hot and that's it. So I think you could fill that. I mean, their biggest needs are size on the back end, and I mean they could use some size up front, not named Nick Ritchie. I think that experiment is done and over with. I hope.
Yes, hopefully.
And they need some finish because how many times can you get open looks at the net and just miss it right to the high glass? I feel like I was watching like Sean Thornton try to shoot the entire series. It's like Bergeron gets an open shot in the slot and he goes high glass over the top. Nobody could score, so I think their biggest needs are obviously someone that can finish, for the love of God, and then between size and a little bit more skill up front that has some touch on the puck. They really need to upgrade their size. I mean, their decor, they just get crunched throughout the whole series. They get weared down. It's the same thing with St. Louis last year.
Yeah. So a lot could be changing, or a lot could stay the same with the Bruins. But they'll be on. They're at home watching now. Brad Marchand talked about how he was like he rode by the Garden in his car, and it just felt like bizarre to be back and to be home because they had planned to be in a bubble till October. Anyway, predictions for the conference finals: Vegas and Dallas, and the Islanders and Tampa Bay. Who do you got in those series?
So I think it's probably going to be Vegas, Tampa, but I'm going to say Dallas because I want Dallas to win it for old friend Tyler Seguin, and I'll take the Islanders. I think the Islanders match up pretty well. Now watch, they'll get swept, but Tampa has some time off here, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We'll find out, but I think the Islanders. They have more than people think, so I'll be interested to see. But I'll take them. I think Tampa and Vegas will probably get there, but I'll take the opposite.
Okay, so if you're going to take Dallas and how many?
Probably 7.
Dallas and 7. What about the Islanders?
7.
7. I'm going to take the Knights in 5. Count them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to take the Islanders as well in 7. I just think they're that team that's coming out of nowhere that is just, I think, going to make one of those runs. I don't know, what had happened in a cup final with them against Vegas, but I feel like they just came off a Game 7 win. At least, I'll tell you this, they're going to win Game 1 against Tampa Bay because Tampa's just been sitting there now, and usually in most sports, the team that was just playing usually has an edge in that first game of the new series if there's another team that's just been sitting there waiting around. So I like the Islanders to at least win Game 1. But
Well, we've seen how that goes. You win game one, then you lose four in a row.
yeah. So moving on from the NHL. If you have any NHL related questions, or if you have any questions throughout the show, drop a line in the comments section. Those will all come to us. We're broadcasting live on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Periscope. And if you're listening to this as a podcast, we're live every Sunday at 11 a.m. And then we put the show out in the afternoon as a podcast for those who couldn't catch us live. And you can always email the show, the 360 Sports Show at gmail.com throughout the week, and we'll get to that. If there's any messages in there, we'll get to those in the mailbox segment. But let's move on now to the NBA, and we'll just quickly recap how the first round concluded. Don't need to give too much analysis because it's basically like 2-week-old news now. But after winning Game 1, the Lakers they storm back. They win that series versus the Blazers pretty handily. I mean, Damian Lillard ends up getting hurt and leaving the bubble. The Bucks take care of Orlando 4-1. The Heat sweep the Pacers. Celtics sweep the Sixers. Raptors sweep the Nets. The Clippers and the Mavs actually really battle it out. I feel bad for the Mavs. I think if Luka stayed healthy and if Kristaps didn't hurt his knee, I think they could have had a chance to knock out the Clippers. I think we all kind of talked about that being a matchup that could be dangerous for the Clippers, and I think we all saw that could have come to fruition. Dallas just wasn't healthy. And then the two big series, Houston and OKC, they go 7 games. Rockets prevail. Denver and Utah go 7 games. Utah blows a 3-1 series lead in an epic duel between Murray and Donovan Mitchell. So in your second round now, for everybody to catch up, the Heat up 3-0 on the Bucks. The Rockets are up 1-0 on the Lakers. Denver and the Clippers are tied 1-1. And after being up 2-0, the Boston Celtics are tied 2-2 with the Toronto Raptors, the defending champions. Christian, where would you like to start? Because I think there's intriguing storylines everywhere in these NBA series here in the second round.
Let's start on the West.
Okay. So I guess we'll start with the Lakers and the Rockets then. So the Rockets win an absolute slugfest of a series with the Thunder. And they come out, and like I said, Game 1 seems to always favor that team that was just playing. And they win Game 1 against the Lakers. Are you at all worried about the Lakers? I mean, I don't know. Is this just rust? You know, they've been sitting for a while. Rockets are, coming off a big win. But also, like, LeBron didn't take a shot in the fourth quarter. Anthony Davis let himself be bodied by P.J. Tucker the whole night. Is it just... I never want to write off LeBron in a series, because you just can't do that. It's like calling the Patriots down and out, with Tom Brady. It's like you can't. Like, I don't care. It's like a 20-point game in the third quarter. Like, you just can't count that guy out. So I don't want to say like, oh, the series is over, but like it just seemed like the Lakers were like LeBron played well for the first 3 quarters, and then he kind of like looked like, Cleveland Cavalier first year at the Miami Heat LeBron, where he like plays great and then just decides in the fourth quarter to just defer. Whereas normally later in his career he's done that early so that he can just be selfish and take over late in games. Is this kind of a weird game? Is it just like a one-off, or should we be worried here for the Lakers?
Probably just a one-off. I mean, they shot like 30% from 3 or below 30% from 3. I don't know if they have enough though. I'll be honest. What is Kyle Kuzma? Like, what is he supposed to be? A good bench guy? Because I feel like he gives them nothing, and he's always a minus player. Between him and, I mean, Caruso's been their best guy off the bench, and that hasn't really.
I think he fouled out in that game too, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And I don't know. The Rockets are small, but it doesn't really matter. Westbrook and Harden, and obviously Eric Gordon, another guy, but they shot 36% from 3, and there's your game right there. 3 and D is the key in the bubble right now. Whichever team shoots the 3 better wins the game most of the time. So I'm not too worried yet. I would say big game for the Lakers to kind of bounce back in. If you go down against this Houston team, can you come back? Probably, but they score 185 points a game and give up 140. So you could easily get blown out if you're not careful. But I would say, they have to bounce back for sure in game two, but I can't be worried until I see them kind of be on the brink. I think he can get to another gear whenever he wants.
Yeah, I'd say if LeBron's not shooting in the fourth quarter, the Lakers are definitely in trouble. And
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, the Rockets. I'm just waiting for a team. See, the Rockets have gone all in, right? They've gone all in with we're just going to play small, and we're going to allow the floor is going to be completely spaced, so guys can go one on one and attack the rim and kick out for threes if necessary. That's what they're doing, right? Go all in the other way. Like they're living and dying with 3-point shooting. Live and die by getting a layup whenever you want if you put like Anthony Davis and Dwight Howard on the floor at the same time. Like just
Yeah.
punish for as much as you might get punished for giving up threes on one end. It's a high, you play the averages. The Rockets playing the averages. D'Antoni's just gone all in. Why keep a big guy out there just cuz? Who cares? Put 5 small guys out there and we're just going to shoot threes. And the averages say if we make our threes at a certain percentage, this is how many points we'll score and we should win. Go the other way. Combat that with your size. Most teams can't do that. You have Anthony Davis. He should be owning this series. Now, it's one game, right? So we don't know what
Yeah.
will happen down the
Davis should
line.
be.
But Davis should dominate this matchup. Put Dwight Howard out there as well. Like, and yeah, you're going to give up a lot of threes, probably, at least attempts, and you're just going to have to live with that. They're shooting that three anyways. I mean, these
Yeah.
guys are shooting from just inside half court sometimes. So, you know what? Go all in the other way. You're going to give up, however many threes per game, but they're not going to be able to stop you on the other end. So you're trading twos for threes, but if you shoot a better percentage, it's going to come out close. And LeBron, shoot the ball in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous.
I just
I
think
mean, Davis should be a dominant force in this series, and he really was in game one.
Absolutely. And I just think other teams aren't positioned. Other teams don't have a guy like an Anthony Davis and then a guy like Dwight Howard as like a backup center that you could roll out there. Like, I wouldn't want the Celtics to roll out Time Lord and Daniel Tice at the same time. Like, no, because those guys can't. Those guys can't move the same way. They also both. I mean, Tice can kind of shoot a three sometimes, but he's not like. It's not Anthony Davis. It's not even similar. If you were, it'd be back to the days, when, the Magic had Dwight Howard and Marcin Gortat. It's like, the two towers, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You honestly should do that and just go big. Go all in. Go big. Have LeBron play point and Kuzma, Davis, Dwight Howard, and then whoever else, Pope, go as big as you can. And, yeah, some of these guys are going to get threes off. Just don't let them get layups. Dominate the paint. But, I guess I'm not a coach. So these teams are just going to get Brad Stevens talks about all the time, you get sucked into playing the Rockets game with them. And you're not going to win that way. You have to dominate your matchups. And, hey, it's one game. I'm sure I expect the Lakers to bounce back, but we'll see. The other series in the West, lost my screen here. 1-1 between the Clippers and the Nuggets. The Clippers dominate game one, and then the Nuggets come right back and dominate game two. I gotta say, I saw somebody say it last night about Jokic that he looks like he's playing the game in flip flops, and now I just can't unsee that at all because the dude just looks so awkward sometimes, and he's pivoting and he just looks like he's on his tippy toes, like moving around. It's just awkward, and then he throws up some like tomahawk shot, and then it's just money. It's like absolute wet. So the dude's like funky to watch. But he's efficient and he scores. Yeah, it's kind of I don't know about this series. I just feel like it's the same deal with the Clippers that I had with them in the first round. I just don't. I just don't feel like they've been like bonded together yet. I just don't feel like they know what they are, and when they need a bucket, I feel like they don't even go to Kawhi or Paul George. They give it to Lou Williams and just let him. They just let guys go one on one. I just don't. I just still don't see that team thing with them. About I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm sure Doc is aware of it because that's like his whole thing is about preaching about guys doing it together. But I just don't know. I don't know. I think if the Clippers went up 2-0, they would have been in the driver's seat. I think now 1-1, especially with the way the bubble is, I just feel like they're just going to be in for another fight. I think this is going to be another long series for the Clippers that maybe they find a way to win, but Denver is, when healthy here, a better team than the Mavericks, and the Mavericks gave them a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I, I think the Clippers are still going to the finals, but last night's game anyway, Kawhi had probably his worst game in maybe like 7 years. He shot like 417 or 18 or something like that, which is just ridiculous, and he didn't make a three. So 13 points for Kawhi is not ideal. If he's going, I think the Nuggets have no shot. Um, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers win three straight, but I think it's at least going probably six. But I think the Clippers will win this series. Um, Jamal Murray is a hell of a player, though, and Jokic obviously is very good as well. And they have some size that they can use to their advantage against the Clippers because the Clippers, they match up well against teams because of their size. So a team like Denver can cause some problems. And I don't know. I just think if Kawhi's on, I don't think Denver has a shot.
Yeah, we'll see. So, yeah, I think that's the most intriguing. You just don't know what's going to happen matchup. Uh, the big surprise, and because we'll leave the Celtics Raptors series last. Back to the East, Miami. Wow, they're 7-0 in the playoffs now. I mean, the Pacers had been that hot team. We said, oh, are they a wild card? Can they give somebody trouble? Don't want to play the Pacers. The Heat roll right over them. TJ Warren, have fun. Have a good summer. Or fall, I guess. Go fishing. 4-0 over them, and they are up 3-0 on the Bucks. And all of those games, I mean, they were close. I know the final score of Game 3 wasn't close, but that's just because Milwaukee's fouling at the end. It was a back and forth game to the very end. Game 2 is that crazy. Middleton draws a foul, which I think is absolutely ludicrous. I think if you jump 5 feet forward in the air and I'm just standing there with my hands up, and you jump into me, should not be a foul. Terrible call against Dragic in Game 2. Well, the refs, because they called that, they had to call the next one on Giannis when he pushed Jimmy Butler after he let the ball go. So, in the words of the great Cedric Maxwell, what makes you laugh makes you cry. So, Jimmy Butler gets free throws with no time on the clock to walk off in Game 2. And then Game 3, it's just more the same. And I'm going to leave, I think the best words for the series, I was talking with our NBA cap expert and insider, Matt Murphy, about this series. And, he talked about Miami made a whole bunch of trades. They kind of reworked their team back in the spring. And this is kind of his take about what's happening here with the Heat and especially this Bucks series. He said, Adebayo has played so great, and the Heat got lucky with the stoppage in play because they made a huge deadline trade, then had months to regroup. What we're seeing essentially is what the 2021 Heat would have looked like. Meanwhile, a hot team like the Bucks have just had to sit around and wait as everyone else prepared for them. I'd say that's exactly what we're seeing. And what we're seeing out of Milwaukee is what we've kind of said about Giannis about a month ago when he was bricking free throws left and right. And we both said, if you want to go to a championship, if you want to win, you're going to have to be able to develop that jump shot because teams are going to wall you off when it counts. and nobody else on that team can create their own shot. They're all just spot-up guys. You know, it's Matthews and Middleton and DiVincenzo and Connaughton. Like, all these guys just sit in the corners or sit on the wings and let Giannis go to work, and then they shoot threes. Giannis is getting walled off. Yeah, I think he's a minus player in this series. You know,
Yeah, he is. Yep.
which isn't good. And being down 3-0, hey man, nobody's done it before. Nobody has ever overcome that deficit in the NBA. So they're looking pretty toast. Whether or not they decide to come out here in Game 4 and try, I don't know. Giannis, I guess, is doubtful or questionable. Is it doubtful now? Or I know it had been questionable. Doubtful or questionable.
I think it was questionable.
With an ankle sprain that he played all last game with. But is this like, does he sit out and they lose, so it's kind of not his fault because, well, I was hurt, couldn't play? I don't know. I think
the Bucks. Yeah, I think they're halfway home, and I think they're absolutely torched. They're going to lose in 4.
Yeah. The Heat are
bubble
rolling.
factor. Yeah, the bubble factor is you get down like 0-3, and you're feeling like, let's just go home now. Might as well. Nobody's ever done it, and Giannis is hurt and overrated, and they're done.
Yeah, I think like you said too about the bubble, Christian. It's not like, okay, listen, let's win Game 4 here on the road. We're heading home. We're in Milwaukee. We're going to be tough to beat. We'll take Game 5, and then hey, then we're in a Game 6. And if we steal Game 6, who knows what could happen in a Game 7? That's not the case. You're just going back to your hotel room, hanging out, and you're coming right back into the bubble, right back into that same court, in the same situation. Yeah. And the Heat aren't going anywhere. Nothing's going to change about the Heat than the way they're playing. So, yeah,
they're already making excuses for Milwaukee. So I mean, just a couple of headlines or a headline: how 4 months off the rail, the Bucks run for a title. Well, not really. I mean, they could have come back and played well. Like, I just hate that argument. It's the same thing in every sport.
I don't think they're playing poorly, though. I don't think they're playing poorly. I just think they're being exposed.
Yeah, they're getting outplayed. I mean, that's just simple fact. I don't think they're playing terribly, but they're also just getting outplayed. The Heat are tough.
Yeah, I just think we're seeing what happened to the Bucks last year against the Raptors. Like, Giannis is great. He's kind of is Giannis going to become Peyton Manning? Accumulate all these regular season stats and MVPs, but then just can't get it done in the playoffs.
He'll be in Golden State or Miami next year, so he'll probably win there.
Yeah, well, and that's the interesting thing. And I was talking to Matt Murphy about this too. I said he's got one more year left on his deal. If you're the Bucks, I mean, they should have never let Malcolm Brogdon go. They should have been willing to pay the tax to keep him. So they're kind of showing themselves to be cheap there and just about wanting to put, butts in seats and make money and not necessarily go all in towards winning a title. Do you come to Giannis and offer him a max extension right now because you want to keep him? Because if you lose him, who knows the next time you're going to have a superstar. And if he says, I just want to play out the year, I think you look at trading him instantly. I think you try and get out now while you can instead of being, LeBron and he just goes for nothing. Because I just think, how are you going to get – they haven't necessarily – their draft position doesn't lend them to being able to add top-tier guys. I don't think Coach Bud is the kind of guy – he doesn't really develop young talent all that well. And they're just not going to be able to get free agents. Who's going to want to go play in Milwaukee and be the sidekick to Giannis when Giannis, I think – after this series, it depends on what his personality is. Does he still want to be the alpha, or is he gonna want to be be more Robin than Batman now?
Yeah.
Like Anthony Davis should be an alpha, but he went to Los Angeles to go play with LeBron, who is the alpha. He's beta. What is Giannis gonna want to do? Is he gonna pull a Kevin Durant and just go bandwagon and, like you said, want to go be on the Warriors? or whoever the team happens to be at that point in time whenever he's either being traded or on the market. I don't think it's a good situation in Milwaukee. You know, they have not built that team is old. I mean, like all their they have it's a lot of veteran guys, who are their key contributors, and I just think it's not going to be sustainable. They have to draft that next guy. So, Middleton, great player. He's not a superstar. I don't think he's worth the money they're paying. They're paying him that money to keep him around. But all he does is he's just a spot-up shooter. He doesn't create his own shot. You can't. He's not like a Jason, like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Each of those guys, slightly different games, but if they're got the ball and they're dribbling, you feel confident they can get their own shot. They can get to the hole. They can pull up. They can handle the ball. I don't know. Middleton doesn't do that. He's a spot-up guy. Giannis dominates the ball, but he doesn't have another guy that if he's being shut down or having an off game that they can get the ball to. It's all.
Also, Giannis can't shoot. Giannis doesn't shoot. He's 0-7 in the last game from 3. He doesn't shoot. Until he develops any type of outside shot, he is going to be what he is. He's going to get the ball and either drive, draw a foul, or dunk on you because he's 9 feet tall. It's like his game is it's very one-dimensional right now. He's obviously okay on the defensive end, but he can't shoot. And until he develops some type of shot and a better shot from the free throw line, I mean, I just don't think they have enough. And especially when Eric Bledsoe is part of your big three, technically, he gives you nothing. What a mistake that is.
Yeah. No, I said that too. They should have kept Brogdon because Brogdon is a much better player than Bledsoe, but they just didn't want to pay, which is shameful. So if Giannis leaves, if he decides he wants out, the Bucks had that coming to them. Absolutely had it coming to him. So, I mean, I'm not going to cry over it. I'll cry if he goes to the Warriors because that'd just be a joke, Imagine next year you have, or in 2 years from now, you have the Golden State Warriors. Tonight's starting lineup: Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Obi Toppin, and Joel Embiid.
Yeah, God. Please no.
Could you imagine? It could happen.
Yeah, it definitely could. I mean, look, I think Giannis eventually is going to go to a situation like Golden State. I just see it now. Golden State is in the top lottery draft this year. They're in like the top 3.
Yes.
I can see them easily drafting another guy. They'll either trade Wiggins and that guy for Giannis, or they'll just sign him in free agency, and the Warriors will be good for another 10 years, and I'm just going to be done with the NBA. I just see it now. I just see it.
Yeah. So let's move on to the Celtics. This is a question from Peter. The question for the Celtics is whether the leprechaun was allowed into the bubble. I'd say no, based off of Game 3. So don't really need to go too much into what happened in games 1 and 2. The Celtics, got up 2-0, and they dominated Game 1. Game 2, Marcus Smart went bananas in the fourth quarter. Game 3 was a back-and-forth battle like you expected. And I know, Christian, we both said this. You needed to step on the Raptors' throats right then and there. You could not allow a team, especially a team that's got a championship pedigree now, that whole heart of a champion thing, you can't let them back in because it's just going to be so much tougher, especially in the bubble. You don't have a home court to go back to. You don't have any, you can't like rely on, hey, our fans look at us pumped up and, Game 5 back. None of that. You got to win. Had to win Game 3. And they put themselves in a great position, too. I mean, half a second left. And, you're up 2. And the whole thing is you don't want to give up a 3. But you know that's going to be a catch and shoot. I don't know. I've actually talked to some coaches. I've heard it both ways. Some people would play that same zone there. And you say, listen, that zone worked. Jaylen Brown got sucked in a little too much. And I think it was Tice didn't move over quick enough because you have to defend that lob to the basket, and that Brown recovered maybe a little late, but if he was any sooner, he might have fouled in that case because he essentially came within like an inch of blocking the shot anyways. You're asking Kyle Lowry to make a cross-court pass over a 7-7 guy, and It has to be on the money so that that guy who's the fourth option, OG Anunoby, can catch it and get it out of his hands in half a second or less. So that if you run that back 10 times, 10 out of 10 times, that play shouldn't happen. It's a complete fluke. You tip the cap to the Raptors. The other thing I said, too, was that there's like the butterfly effect. If Daniel Tice lays that ball in off the glass instead of trying to dunk it, there actually isn't any time left. But you can drive yourself nuts, which I have with stuff like that. So the Celtics lose Game 3 in that dramatic fashion. It was all about how do they respond, right? You're going to lose a game in a series. How do you respond? And I don't know what to make of the response last night. I think they played hard. I don't question their effort one bit. But I think they're kind of just falling into a little bit of a trap here with Toronto. And down the stretch, there was some times where I felt guys, Tatum in particular, a little too much hero ball at times. He's trying to get out on the break and get to the rim 1-on-5. And it's like, okay, I don't mind him. I like him being aggressive. But you know what? Let's pull the ball out. Let's get a good shot. Let's maximize this possession. Unless you have a clear layup, don't be just charging ahead against three guys. And, they lose last night. And this series now is completely different. Completely different. I still think the Celtics are the better team. I think Brad Stevens has got to coach. He's a coach. He's a very good coach. So I think he knows what he's seeing what's happening on the floor. He's going to coach his guys better to react to that zone. I mean, guys got to move better. Guys got to learn to just shoot the shot when it's there before it gets closed down. Tatum is getting stripped frequently now on his little spin move that the Raptors are just jumping. So he's going to be aware of that and getting rid of the ball sooner, knowing that double team is kind of coming from the backside. There's all these little details, that are lead to like a lot of these turnovers or bad shots, which I think are correctable. But the big thing, and everybody I think always likes to get excited about this, this is where you miss Gordon Hayward. People like to get on Gordon Hayward. Oh, for what you're paying him. But forget what you're paying him. He's on the team now, and he's a member of the team. He's a contributor to the team. They need him on this team. Don't look at the price tag and what he to production, because it's just you'll never win with that kind of argument. He's the guy that's a zone buster. He can get into the middle of the defense. He can facilitate. He can play defense. He can pass. He's that extra guy that's just like it's like backbreaking you can't account for. The Raptors are really good defensively. They're trapping Kemba and then sprinting to everybody else. They're overplaying Tatum's pass. And Jaylen Brown had a poor shooting night. And when you don't have another guy who can just kind of make you pay, this is what you have. This is what you get. And they're in a dogfight now. This series is going 7 games.
Well, I don't agree, but let me let me go back a little bit.
You don't agree? What you think they're gonna get? You think it's going 6 and it's done?
Yes, but I'll get to it. I think the response last night was awful. They were 7 of 35 from 3. That to me right there means you lose the game, no questions asked. And they're letting the Raptors off the hook by playing a lot of ISO when guys in the middle are wide open. There's a number of stills from this game where 3 Raptors are at the top of the key chasing either Kemba or Tatum. There's Tice and I believe this particular one was Tice in the middle, nobody near him, and I want to say Tatum on the opposite side of the court, nobody near him. Brown shoots a 3 and bricks it. So Brown was not good in this game. I was expecting a lot more from him. 4 of 18 is not great. And I thought Kemba was mediocre. I didn't think he took it I didn't think he took the ball enough. He didn't take enough shots. He shot the ball 9 times. I mean, just to give you some context, want to make your shot 5 times. I don't think that's anywhere close to what you need from Kemba. Smart shot the ball 8 times and was not good. I don't think anybody was great last night, and Tatum tried to keep them in the game. He was a +0, so net positive really, but he was the only player on the floor that was seemingly trying to win. Jalen kept shooting over and over, and just absolutely missed everything last night. And they just didn't have enough. And because of that, it's overreacting season. And I'm going to go ahead and overreact. I think it's done. I think that game 3 loss, that is a huge swing. I don't think people understand how big of a swing that is, especially if the response last night, which I didn't love. I think they'll come out and they'll probably be much closer and much better in game 5 or game 5. But I don't know. I thought they were going to be much better in game 4, and they were not. So I'm going to overreact and say they're done in 6.
I
I think
think
Toronto's going to win 2 more.
I think you can't argue with the stats, right? So you just look at the stats and say, oh, Kemba has to take more shots. He was bad. These shots weren't falling. Yes, I mean, that's the reason they lost is because shots didn't fall. I look at like the effort as far as what they were doing, and I think they made plenty of mistakes. Like I didn't say that they played well. I said that I don't think it's not like they didn't show up or try. Which is there's a difference there. So I'd say they showed up to play and they played hard. They just made a lot of mistakes that they need to correct. And like you said, one of those is the recognition of the way they're trapping guys and doubling guys and being aggressive with that, with the box and one and all the different things that Nick Nurse likes to throw out there to disrupt you. That comes down to practice. I mean, I hope yesterday or today, rather, that they're in the bubble and they're practicing, and it's like, listen, we have to work on when this happens, getting the ball, out of your hands quicker to this guy, and then you getting to this spot so then you can get the ball back. And Kemba being off ball will go a long way towards him getting shots. Because if you're getting triple teamed, you're not going to be able to get more than 9 shots in a game. So they have to find ways of getting him the ball, in different areas. So that's really what I think that comes down to. It comes down to the coaching. In this series, I think the Celtics have the better players. I just think that for as much as Brad Stevens kind of undressed that team in Game 1 and a little bit in Game 2, Games 3 and 4 go to Nick Nurse. I just think that's where the coaching comes into play, and specifically they need to, at least the players need to, take that coaching and apply it on the floor. There just needs to be better recognition in some of those situations.
Yeah, I mean, look, overall field goal percentage, Toronto only shot 39.5%. Celtics shot 44%. So overall, it's like, oh, that's not bad. Well, where was the difference? 3 points, 3-point field goals, 7 of 35. You're going to lose almost every game now in today's NBA. If you shoot 20% from 3, you're probably going to lose, especially when the other team shoots about 40%. I mean, that's just I don't think they defended the 3 at all last night, I'll be honest, and I don't think they shot it well. So there's your game right there. Did they absolutely suck and just not come out and not perform and not try? No, I don't think so. But I think that Game 3 to me was such a gut punch. And unless they come out in Game 5 and show a little more, I think that the Raptors will win this series now.
I'm not going to go that far. I'd worry about if they lose game 5. But I gotta see Game 5 first. If they lose Game 5, I'd agree it's over because at that point the Raptors are just feeling they were ready to pack it up. They were ready to pack it up.
Yeah.
Same deal with the Bucks right now. You lose, you go down 3-0. It's one, it's basically impossible, and 2, you're in the bubble. I don't know. This series is going to be an absolute slugfest now. It's going to be a dogfight, which is what Marcus Smart said after the game last night. He's like, "Listen, we're in a dogfight now. That's we can't pretend. We have to be ready. We got to be better. I like this team a lot because I think they play hard and they say all the right things. It's just unfortunate what happened in Game 3 because I felt like them winning that game when you knew Toronto was desperate was going to go a long way towards feeling like the Celtics are now championship ready. This is just another one of those. It's like a test. You're going to have can they put a team, like really put a team away in when it's not cutting time against an elite team? This group has not done that. Period. Against they were up 2-0 against the Cavs in 2018. They lost that series. That's the Game 7 against the Cavs. That's the closest they've come to putting away an elite team. Every other year under Brad Stevens, when they've been against an elite team, they have not won that series. The teams they beat, Washington, Chicago, Atlanta, those aren't elite teams. Milwaukee a couple of years ago in the first round, they weren't yet what they are now. So I just think it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult now. And this is where this team's going to have to learn. This is something they have not done yet. And we'll see if they can do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm on the ultra negative now. I think the Celtics are better and they should still win the series, right? I mean, I think they have the better roster. But at the same time, you see the pendulum swing when stuff like that in Game 3 happens, when you're about to be up 3-0, put this team on the brink, and then you F up one play and they get a miracle shot and they turn it around. Because now they're firing away. So I don't know. Game 5 is going to be, I think, probably the closest game of the series. It's going to be back and forth, and we'll see. I think whoever wins Game 5 is probably going to win the series.
Yeah, I agree. So, moving on now from if you have any NBA thoughts or questions, you can certainly send those, comment on the stream. We're broadcasting live here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Periscope, and then we put the show out as a podcast through SoundCloud and distributed to every podcasting platform imaginable on the planet. So if you can't catch us live, you can catch us there. Just look for The 360 Sports Show, and you can always email us questions throughout the week to the360sportshow@gmail.com. So let's move on from the NBA and NHL, who are in their postseasons, to the NFL, which is opening this week. Dun, 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 dun. Thursday, season opener for the NFL. It just has felt like we were never actually going to get football. I think we're going to get football, Christian. It's just going to be about how long does it last.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, I mean, it's different once the games start and teams start traveling. But at this stage, I feel like the players are taking this pretty serious. I'm not going to lie. I think, even without the bubble, I think, there's talk of a bubble for the postseason. But I don't know. I think we might get more football than people realize. I think the players are actually pretty engaged about getting a season in, and obviously they get paid when they play, so they want to play. And I think just from what I've seen in baseball, I think it's containable. And with all the testing that they have access to, I think we're going to get a full season in now. I'm fairly confident in that. Now, obviously, you never know what could happen, but just with everything that I've seen with baseball, and obviously they've had some mess ups, but they're playing every other night, right? So if a team comes home and they have a COVID positive test, and you can just sit that team out. I don't know how you make up. You have some room at the end of the season, but I'm fairly confident right now that we're going to get more football, and I'm very, very much okay with it.
Yeah, I confident in them starting, right, and beginning here. We don't know what it's going to look like after, say, 2 or 3 weeks of playing, how things spread, during a football game. We had college football yesterday. Oh, my gosh. So they're going to try. I'm pessimistic about how long it's going to last. What happens when there's that first outbreak on a team and, a guy plays in a game and then, he didn't, somehow he slipped through the cracks. I don't get it. He tested negative. And then, 18 guys on one team test positive and 20 on another. Because football, we've been over this. In a football game, you're covered in sweat and spit and blood and it's a brutal game. You cannot be socially distant and play football. Impossible. Maybe if you're a safety and the team just runs the ball the whole game, and you never even come near anybody. But at some point, you're gonna have to make a tackle. So I think we're gonna get 2 or 3 weeks of football. Around that week 3 point is where we're gonna start to see, numbers. And at that point, if it's like, wow, these guys are being, and we've said, I think NFL guys are going to be responsible because they have to be, because non-guaranteed contracts, right? And they want to make their money.
Yeah.
And it comes down to being personally responsible. You're not in a bubble, but treat your home and your team like a bubble. Come to your facility, go home. Be responsible. It can happen. It can work. Will it work? I don't know. I'm pessimistic. I think if you have even a couple of teams, one team, it'll take one team being like the Cardinals or the Marlins, or any of these teams running out to casinos and bars and coming back and infecting their team to shut it all down. Because it's going to be way harder to control if a team plays and gets another team sick. It's just the trickle down from that is just going to be too much on an NFL roster.
I said this in baseball. If you have a team that tests positive and they're reckless, like going out on the town, that team should just sit. I don't know. I don't think there's any other way to deal with it. Like if you're 8 games into the season, then a team is like, you know what? I don't care. Let's just go out and party. That team should just be done. I don't know.
If somebody's like 1-9, and they're going out to bars, it's like, you know what, guys, you clearly don't care. So you know what? See ya. Season's over.
Yeah, and I don't know if you give the other team a net win. I don't know how it happens, but I think, maybe it's just that I want football, but I'm hopeful that they'll get a lot of games in.
Yeah. Who do you got in the opener? Pete again brings up a good question. With no preseason, how will Las Vegas be able to set the lines for Week 1? I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know how much preseason usually plays into the lines anyways. Obviously, we really have nothing to look at. You don't know what any of these teams are going to, we don't know what, like, Cam Newton's going to look like on the Patriots. We have no idea what much this is going to look like. I'd say it's just probably, Vegas always seems to know things. So yeah. I'd say it's just based off of a lot of their own insider type of information. Whatever research is usually done to set those lines. Let me see if I can find the lines for this opening game, because I'm
it's the same way you do
interested.
You do like Patriots that lost the Super Bowl. What's their chances next year? I think you just base it kind of off what you've seen.
All right, let's see. Season opener: Houston at Kansas City. Kansas City -10. So the Chiefs favored by 10 points on banner night. I got to take the Chiefs in that game. I mean, it's usually that it's very rare that the team raising the banner loses on opening night. It does not often happen, because usually that team is just so fired up and ready to go. And it's just such a tough. But then again, you know what? I'd say normally it's just such a tough atmosphere to play. Now I don't know. That's like the thing that's crazy. Normally it's like, oh, the home team gets 3 points. Is that going to happen this year?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. KC has fans in there, right? Like 20%. 30%?
Do they? I guess I'm forgetting that too. That some of these, that it's just not been blanket.
22% is what they said in April. I don't know if
that's
still a thing, but
fans or no fans? Where some NFL teams stand? Let's see. 22% capacity. Wow.
Yeah. So
how do you do that?
That's a little something.
How do you stop like those 20? That 22% from like all coming to one section? You tell me I like bought a nosebleed seat and I'm like, there's nobody sitting at the 50-yard line. You're gonna stop me from going down and sitting there? You have to have more people than there are fans to manage people in the stadium at that point. Unless like you have like some new stipulation like, hey, if you move your seat, you're kicked out and can never come back again.
So 22%. So the capacity is about 7,700, 76.5 Yeah, 76,500. So 22% of that is going to be like 16, almost 17,000 fans.
How do you
That's still quite
manage?
a bit. I don't know.
How do you manage that?
Well, I don't know.
Like, how do you? This is why I say there's no hope, Christian.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
I just,
yeah, I
I
don't
just
know.
think the logistics of that, the money. What do you hope? So then, you having fans. I imagine you're having concessions, right? You have to. What's the point of
Yeah,
going to the?
yeah, 100%.
Who's going to go to a game if they can't get a beer and they can't get some food? But then,
I'm
like,
sure there's going to be ways of doing it, but there's definitely going to be concessions. There's no doubt.
how do you? You gonna have somebody managing the lines in the bathroom, making sure hey, everybody stay, you know, is every other I mean, guys, we already know every other urinal is. We're already socially distant when we go to the bathroom anyway. But how do you? How is any of that? Like, I feel like it's just the logistics of because what happens then if hey, you don't have to worry about the players getting sick from that, but what happens if all your vendors get sick? Then what does that
Yeah,
do? What's the
yep, I
liability of
know.
that? We'll see. I know the Patriots have already said at least through September. They'll probably keep upping that, and it'll be October and then November. No fans. They toyed around with the idea of letting you tailgate at the stadium, but again, what does that accomplish? That's
I
just a
think tailgating would be worse.
that's just a mass gathering of people, which is right now not advised.
Yeah,
um,
I mean, the one thing I'll say is it's now, stadiums are outdoor. If they like, I don't know. I think it's doable, but that's still really weird. But I mean, hey, it adds to the game, I guess, because now you're gonna have 16,000, 17,000 fans there for KC, presumably. I doubt anybody from Houston's going there because of quarantine rules and everything like that, right? So
yeah. We'll see. Anyway, let's move on. So week one, who you taking? I'm taking the Chiefs.
I think the Chiefs are absolutely going to smack the Texans. I think they're going to score like 50 something points.
Yeah. Quick note, actually, Deshaun Watson signed an extension.
Yeah.
Do you think that was a smart move for him, or should he have waited to see if Billy O'Brien gets fired before he decides to sign up for X number of more years still in Houston?
Um, Good question. Fire him.
Yeah, well, I think he could be fired. I'm just saying, like, if you're a Watson, do you take that contract now? Like, evidently, like they've had their troubles. I mean, there's been like that locker room's kind of had some upheaval, and it's been, there's been spats back and forth. I mean, maybe this is more COVID related. Like, hey, you know what? I better take this money now while it's on the table. Um,
Yeah.
I guess I'm a little surprised because it seemed like he was a guy that like might just want to play out the year and then go be a free agent. I guess that's more where I was coming from.
That's fair. I don't know. He took the deal though, right? So, I mean, I think that's good for Houston because I think if Watson's healthy, I think he can get to another level, hopefully. But yeah,
All
a lot
right.
of money.
So let's move on to our New England Patriots. Cam Newton is the starter, or is he? uh,
Well, yeah.
Evidently, all reports are, and a lot of the players have said, yeah, Cam's been named the starter, and Bill Belichick refused to admit as much. But I think we all kind of saw that coming. So Cam Newton will be the Week 1 starter for the Patriots. They made their cuts yesterday. They cut their white supremacist kicker, and they also cut Nick Folk, so they don't have a kicker right now, but I expect that is a situation where they wanted to keep somebody on their roster, and so they know they can cut bait with Folk and bring him right back. And so you watch today,
Yeah,
tomorrow,
full explode.
somebody's going to be IR'd, and they're going to bring Folk back. That's what I think. But your reactions, Christian, to Cam Newton being named the de facto starter here?
Yeah, I'm so surprised. That quarterback competition was really intense with Stidham and Hoyer. Oof,
Don't
that was a
forget,
tough one.
don't forget Gawerke or Nowicki, whatever the other guy's name was.
Oh yeah, Gaworky. Yeah. Gaworky or something. I don't even know. But yeah, there was no competition from the start. Newton was going to be the starter, which I hope and I wanted that to be the case, um, because I think he gives you the best chance to win. I mean, look, I think Stidham, is there a chance he's the guy? Sure, but he's not there yet, clearly. And Hoyer, we know what Hoyer is. He's a good backup, but I don't think he's a starter in the league. I think he's like one and I don't even know. Let me look this up real quick. But I think Hoyer in his last like 16 starts, is like 2-14 or something like that, or
He
maybe
was
less
the
than that.
quarterback for the Browns for a while. I say we take away the Browns stats because I remember watching those games and it was typical of Browns where it's like they're in the game, they're winning, and then like something backbreakingly horrific happens. I almost feel like any Browns quarterback, unless they throw a pick six, should not be held responsible because that franchise is just cursed.
Well, in this case, to fit my argument, I'm going to go with it. I think Hoyer's not great. That's what I'll say. I think
No, he's not
he is
gonna.
a backup. He's a solid backup, but Cam Newton is the starter without a doubt. Here, they're going to be a heavy run, maybe option team, and their wide receiver crew sucks, but um, they have running backs, right? So they're going to be a run heavy team. Hopefully, offensive line, I guess, is looking good just from what I've seen from camp. And then on the defensive side, you hope the secondary holds up and they can do some things with the guys up front. So, heavy run defense team. They got to be tough up front on the line, both lines, and I think they'll be okay. Uh, I don't even remember what we said. It was long ago, but I would say when we were doing the schedules, but I would say like 9-7, 10-6,
Ooh,
something like that.
I can pull that up for us right now. I was actually just looking at that because I saw somebody else was making predictions about the season, and they had like the Bills going like 5-11. I'm like, what? You crazy?
Yeah,
The Bills
yeah,
might win the division. Like, this is
they
insane.
very well could.
Yeah, our prediction for the Patriots, we both said 9-7.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
With a 4-2 divisional record and 7-5 conference record. So they're probably going to be a wild card team.
Yeah.
We had Miami at 8-8 or 9-7, kind of hovering around that area. Bad divisional record. Buffalo 9-7, 10-6 in that area. The Jets we both had at 4-12. And then just for context sake, we said that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were going to go 11-5, and I don't think anything's changed on that.
Nope.
So that's no matter what happens this year, the Patriots and the Buccaneers are just going to be forever linked. It's just you're just going to always be gauging one against the other because of the whole Tom Brady thing. What do you think, Christian, about Newton being named a starter? Or sorry, not a starter, a captain.
Well, I'm not surprised. The one question is why is Edelman not a captain? But in terms of Newton being a captain, I mean, look, all we've heard, I mean, we're getting this storyline shoved down our freaking throat that his energy at practice, his energy, he's not high energy, high energy. So I'm not surprised. And I think Newton, I mean, look, notoriously, Newton is known for, a lot of people think he's an a-hole, but he really hasn't. He's had some stirrups with like the media and stuff, like that female reporter one time, obviously. But overall, I don't think Cam Newton's a bad guy. It's not like he's running around like Antonio Brown out here, and his teammates love them in Carolina. So I'm not surprised, and I think he gets a bad rap because he kind of has the attitude in his post game, and does he have that thing like where he's going to dive and get the ball in front of him in the Super Bowl? But overall, Newton's not a bad guy, and I think he's fine to be a captain. And everywhere you see, teammates love him. So that's what matters. What's inside the locker room, not what people think of him outside.
Yeah. Any concerns? I know you probably have some concerns here about this Patriots team. I think they're going to be solid. I think as long as Newton's healthy, I think he adds an extra element to them that they've never had. I know you're worried about the wide receiver group. I'm not. I actually think that the guys they have is going to suit what they want to do. But I know this is something that you're passionate about, Christian. So I'll let you take the lead on the wide receiver core here.
Yeah, I mean it's no better than last year, and they sucked last year. I mean, I don't think Tom's attitude helped, and I think Newton's will because I think he'll work with the guys like N'Keal Harry and Myers and Edelman. I'm not even sure. I know Devin Ross was released, I believe, yesterday. I'm not even sure who technically are the wideouts on their depth chart are. But I know obviously Edelman, you start there, and then Harry, Olszewski, Slater technically, and Harry. Yeah, you're throwing Demir Bird, Edelman, Harry, Myers, and Olszewski out there. I don't like your chances. I'll be honest. I don't think any one of those. Like I like what you have in Myers. I think if you work with him a little bit more, maybe he can get to a certain spot. But Harry, nothing that I've seen is saying he's blowing everybody away. Maybe you get him the ball in space sometimes and let him go. But this is going to be a run heavy. I mean, look, all we've heard about is Damian Harris is the second coming of Barry Sanders. So he's hurt now, but we'll see what they have with him. I think, they do a lot of that redshirt stuff with guys like that. But I think it's going to be a run heavy team. And obviously, they're going to have to throw the ball down the field a bit, which obviously, like you mentioned, Newton can do just based on, you have the option of he's going to run the ball. Running back will run the ball. He can move a little bit more. So that'll help get guys open. But I don't love their wide receiver group. Beyond Edelman, I think you have a bunch of guys that are like a C. I don't know. I think they're going to be a heavy run and defensive team, and they got to control the line of scrimmage if they're going to do anything.
I think in an offense with Tom Brady, not ideal. I think in an offense with Cam Newton, I think these guys are going to be very successful. I think you're going to have guys. I mean, I think Myers is going to have a big second year. I think N'Keal Harry, a guy that you can just put the ball up for. I just think there's going to be a lot more trust, and Newton's going to have worked with these guys a lot more. I think you're going to see it's going to look, the offense is going to look different. I think guys like Bird and Myers and Edelman, who just want to run crisscross across the field and all sorts of stuff, are going to get open and be in a position because Newton can extend plays. Those guys are going to be able to succeed more. I don't think we're going to see a lot of timing, little angle routes, 1-2 balls out of the hands. The guy's just turning. It's at his, shoelaces, and he grabs it. I just don't think the offense is going to look at all the same. I agree with you. It's going to be run heavy, but I think a lot of their passing is going to come off of play action, and a lot of it's going to become off of boots and extending the play and just creating mismatches and angles and a lot of the pick stuff that they like to do. I just think all these kind of quick guys, and you have a guy like Harry that you can get the ball up to that's a little more physical. I think it's just I think they're gonna be fine offensively because Cam Newton's not Tom Brady, facts. So I think if you were trying to have this sort of precision passing game and attack, I'd be worried. I just think you need guys to be quick and get open, and I worry more about Newton being able to get the ball two spots accurately, but if they run the offense in a certain way, he might not have to. I think the guys who are going to get a lot of balls is going to be James White. I think is going to get tons more catches this year because look at what they did with Christian McCaffrey. I think James White is going to be a much bigger. Normally, fantasy-wise, you say, stay away from Patriot running backs. I think as much as Edelman was the outlet for Tom Brady, I think James White is going to be a huge boost for Cam Newton.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, look, I think they have the potential to absolutely suck in the first 2 weeks just because of all the newness. Number one, your starting quarterback just got here really, really late, and then obviously just made cuts, no preseason. So they could potentially just not do much in the first 2 weeks, but I don't think that's anything to be alarmed of. I think this first, 4 to 6 weeks for Belichick is going to be like implementing different things and getting guys up to speed. They're going to have to, early on, they're going to have to rely on their defense. That's where a lot of their guys are, they have a couple opt-outs, but that secondary is still intact. So that's where they're going to have to make some noise. And, I mean, I think they'll be okay on the offensive side once they kind of get up to snuff. But Newton obviously adds another element, which is good. and hopefully Damian Harris comes back and can give you something running the ball, because I'm not sure what Sony Michel is at this point. But I think they're going to struggle early on, but I think they'll be a solid team by the end of it, right? They'll be 9-7, 10-6, maybe 8-8, somewhere in there, and they'll compete for the division. I think there's no question that they're going to compete.
Yeah. So that kind of does it for our NFL bit. One last thing I wanted to hit on before we step away here for this latest edition of the 360 Sports Show. Big news in the world of sports. Lionel Messi is going to be staying in Barcelona because, surprise, surprise, he didn't want to pay $700 million to be able to get out of his contract.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, big news. I mean, he was ready. It seemed like he wanted to leave Barcelona, but there was a window where he had to opt out of his contract or file to move, and he missed that. And the penalty for such would have been he would have had to have bought out his contract, or he could have sued the team to let so that they could let him go. And he just didn't want to do that. It seems he has too much respect. I have too much respect for the team to sue them, but I want to leave. And obviously that $700 million is a ridiculous price tag, even though money in professional football, soccer, is crazy. I don't think anybody was going to want to pony that up for him.
No, and so he had a potential offer from, I believe it was Manchester City, for like $750 million, I want to say, to play for them for 5 or 6 years. They would pay out the rest of his deal now, just give him $700 million that he's owed, and then in that contract, $700 freaking million, and he's 33 years old. He would have to play for FC Chicago, I want to say, in the MLS at the end of that contract. They're going to offer him almost $1 billion and pay his contract out to, it's just, that is insane to me. Number one, you stop at $700 million and say, what the hell? But they were going to pay his contract out, $750 million to play for them, and then he had to go to the MLS for like a year or two at the end of the deal, just for almost $1 billion. That is insane.
Yeah. You thought baseball money was crazy.
My God. Yeah, it's like, he owns the world at that point. I don't know.
Yeah. So that'll do it for this episode of the 360 Sports Show. Remember, we're live every Sunday at 11 a.m., broadcasting on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and Periscope. You can find us there on any of those platforms. Thank you to everybody who sent in thoughts and comments throughout the show. If you can't catch us live, you can always subscribe to the podcast on a litany of podcast platforms so you never miss a show. And remember, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at 360 Sports Show. I am Andy Pizzelli. He's Christian Lauber. Stay safe, everybody.
See you later.